Welcome back to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We're getting insights from beef cattle producers just like you and me on a number of concerns. And John, I want to follow up on the antibiotics discussion because that very Consumer Report article that I mentioned really criticized particularly the feedlot industry for the overuse and misuse, and went so far to say that only 3% of the nation's cattle were sustainable, and they defined sustainable as being organic, non-antibiotics. We'll get to the sustainability issue in a minute. From an antibiotic perspective, what can you do at the feed yard level to make certain that we are stewarding this important technology?
Well, there's a lot we can do. I think you mentioned one word there, but there's really two ways we look at this. And one is judicious use. We use that word judicious, and that essentially means use the tool the way it's intended to be used. And so if an animal gets a runny nose and gets sick and has a temperature, we're going to take care of them. And we're going to use the best, most efficient tool that we've got. And so I think there is improvement on my segment side in terms of judicious use, and we will work very closely with the veterinarian community to make sure that we are doing that. The other part of it is stewardship. And the way that I look at that, the way we look at that is how can we reduce? How can we do more with less? And specifically where antibiotics are concerned. And there's really a lot of optimism on that side. We have done some work with alternatives, for example. So we're looking at products that are made from yeast, or products that are direct-fed microbials, and those types of things, which will have the same sort of effect, in fact a better effect on the animal's gut, right? And so we don't lose anything in terms of efficiency and performance. The animal feels fine, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of work that we can do to actually reduce along this line of stewardship the volume of antibiotics that we use, and really in a way that makes us more efficient and is being more sensitive to the consumer needs.
So Clint, a lot of times the amount of antibiotics John uses is directly proportional to what happens back on the ranch. What's your perspective?
Absolutely, Kevin. We as producers know that what happens at the feed yard level starts at the ranch level, and the greatest use of the greatest antibiotic used is the one we don't use. Our job as producers and our passion as producers is the care of our cattle. That's why we're all beef producers. We care. It concerns us. It disturbs us when we lose cattle. Antibiotics are there for our usage, and we're blessed with an industry that does a great job about promoting products that are even more advanced as time goes by. But our vaccination programs, if we'll follow them to a T, we can save so much production and efficiency, as well as the health and well-being of those cattle as they move down that chain. That's why when we market cattle with preconditions, whether they're balling calves or weaned calves, but those vaccination preconditioned cattle before they leave the ranch add so much value back to us. Our data will show from Cattle Facts, we're talking $6 to $8 a hundredweight on balling calves that are preconditioned, and that's compared to cattle that have had a round of vaccines. We're not talking about cattle that have never had any. Our weaned calves will deliver $10 to $12 a hundredweight. That's real money, not to mention the price difference between a vaccination and a price difference between an antibiotic is tremendous. We're talking nearly 6-7 times the amount of money. So we talk about sustainability. That's one of the greatest things we can do right there, just to increase those efficiencies there.
I'm glad you mentioned that word sustainability. I want to pick on Kevin for just a minute because it's been a big topic with NCBA. Of course, you've been very involved in the Global Roundtable for Sustainability and so forth. Tell us your definition of sustainability.
Sustainability to me is doing something that will keep us in business for the next generation. That's the bottom line. So you can talk about, and it's a part of it, social sustainability, but economic sustainability. If we don't have that component of the big picture, then we're done. And so at NCBA, that's part of one of our main strategies is to address sustainability, because the rest of the world is addressing it through consumers and other even countries, and corporations are getting on the bandwagon to where they want to have a message to their consumers about sustainability. Unfortunately, they don't know yet what that is, and fortunately, we're in a position with some of the big corporations in the United States they're reaching out to us to help define what sustainability is. And so we're in that process of working with companies, so when they deliver a sustainability message, we're a part of the management of where we can come up with a definition that's good for everybody.
John, you've had a lot of conversations with those very people he's talking about. How do they define sustainability, and what does that mean to us as beef cattle producers?
Well, I think that it gets back to one of the conversations we had earlier about the consumer, that they're being pressured from their consumer to be more responsible, right? And that ties to wanting to know more about the food production. And so sustainability is a very broad kind of a term to try to define specifically. But at the end of the day, I think NCBA and the United States Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, we're working on identifying ways that we can benchmark our good practices we're doing today, whether it be how we use water, whether it be our carbon footprint, how we take care of our animals. All of those things fit into the definition of sustainability, and what we probably haven't done well enough is benchmarking that and measuring it, and so we can show improvement over time. That's what it comes down to. So I think from my perspective, when I got engaged in it, there's sort of a fear factor. And this is going to be black helicopters and Big Brother. And I think when you really start to look at it, we are doing a lot of the right things. We're just not validating it or verifying it and talking about it. So I think it's one of those things that is being consumer centric, and we can do that. We can address it without really being fearful of added costs and added burden to our system.
That's an important topic as we move ahead, because it's not going away for sure. Great responses from all of you. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, let me say that we're all stronger together than we are alone. Consider becoming a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association to unite with others who share your values and want to protect the way of life in cattle country. To join NCBA, go to the website beefusa.org, or you can call 1-866-USA Beef.